Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free through the tireless efforts of Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce on the website at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the two words that say Start Here in the upper left-hand corner, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Ryce's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of the book contains a narrative description and explanation of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet, and it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 20 years now to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and to turn any negative emotional experience I have into part of the infallible guidance system that each and every one of us has been given. You can also download a whole host of audio files from shows like this one where people have been stepped through that worksheet process. And the actual worksheet process itself, which is a simple PDF file, just click the link, download it, print it off, copy it as often as you'd like, and use it over and over again, absolutely free. You can also go to your app store and type in the three words HeartLand Aramaic Forgiveness. And if you choose to do that before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon. If you tap on that, it will let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet. It contains an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and it contains a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. And we hope people do all of that soon and often, primarily because it tends to improve the quality of people's lives the more they actively apply these tools in their lives, and secondarily because it tends to prompt comments, questions, answers, and testimonials if you have any of those to share with us. We'd greatly appreciate you doing so. You can send me an email at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org, or you can email Jeanie at jeanie@whyagain.org. It's whyagain.org. If you're listening to us on the internet through live.needle.com/mindshiftersradio, we're glad you're here. Glad you're choosing to spend some time with us. And from that venue, you don't have the ability to have direct input. But if you go to your app store and type in the word Needle, N-E-D-L, search for that app. It's an AI tuner for live radio. If you download the app, open it, sign in, and answer a few questions, it will give you the opportunity to either type a comment in the app or tap the phone icon and have a direct voice-to-voice conversation with us. And whether it's through email or comment through the app or live phone conversation, we greatly appreciate whenever anybody shares their questions or comments or testimonials with us, because it makes it infinitely easier for us to live into our intention with this work. The intention we have with this work is to be of service, and it's just so much easier to do when we know how these things are landing for you. So please feel free to comment, let us know what's working or not working. I I did a stretch yesterday, and I read a series of what they call realizations from a friend of mine from high school who has tapped into a Shaumbra, Shaumbra, set of thoughts that, to my eye and ear, parallel the work that we do in Michael Ryce's work, what we find in A Course in Miracles, The Way of Mastery, the book A Walk in the Physical by Christian Sundberg, and others. And there were 21 different realizations that I read, and if you want to access that for yourself, you can find it at Crimson Circle, CrimsonCircle.com. That's the website this came from. And I imagine it's available absolutely free because it says here, feel free to copy and distribute this document in its entirety without trying to make money on it. They're much like Stephen Davis, who wrote the book Butterflies Are Free to Fly, and he put it out there for free, and he said, feel free to use it, copy it, just don't make money off of it. And so I took a chance yesterday and read all 21 of those realizations and tried to show the parallels that my mind is showing me about the similarities between The Way of Mastery and Course in Miracles and A Walk in the Physical, etc. So if you have any comments or questions about that, I am interested in hearing them. How did that land for you? Was that too big a stretch? Etc., etc. If no one raises a hand or sends an email or taps the phone icon to ask to be spoken to directly, I will return to reading from A Walk in the Physical by Christian Sundberg. We were working through different themes of essays, and the theme that I'm going to read from today is titled Challenge as a Gift. And that's coming because I've had several people in my caseload recently who they're dealing with the issues of how much to set limits for or how much to do things for their children, whether they're, in their single-digit ages or their preteens or teens or 20s or 30s. And how much should they intervene and either do work for the person, whether it's, help them get a job or pay for their room and board when they're not working, or, fill out an application for them to get into college, or bail them out of jail, or all of these different things have been going on in people in my caseload recently. And what I try and share with people is the idea that if I step in and either do the work for my young adult or my child, or I stand in the way of them feeling the consequences of the choices they've made or the behaviors they've done, I'm not helping them, I'm hurting them. And one of the analogies there is pay attention to what happens if you find a chrysalis. You find a caterpillar that has spun a chrysalis and is in the process of transforming, metamorphosing from caterpillar to butterfly or moth or whatever. If you come across one of those and you say, oh, this poor thing is struggling to get out, I think I will help it, and you find the X-Acto knife and you have the hands of a surgeon and you slit the thing open and you don't injure the caterpillar or the butterfly or moth, but you take the chrysalis off without it needing to work through it, then that caterpillar slash moth slash butterfly doesn't usually survive because it needs to build the strength that it gets by pushing against its enclosure, by breaking out itself. It's that strength that it develops, like we would go into a gym and build muscle with weightlifting, that it needs to fly, that it needs to survive. And if we take that away from them, whether it's our children or our young adult offspring, they don't learn to deal with disappointment. They don't learn to deal with frustration. They don't learn to push themselves to find out what true strength they actually have deep inside. And so here's a theme from the 166 essays in the book A Walk in the Physical, and the title of this theme is Challenge as a Gift. None of us really like to hear this, but the first essay in that list is titled The Allure of Vibrational Distance. And Christian writes, as we exist in a non-physical state prior to incarnation, our true nature is completely known to us. We fully know what we truly are. We fully know that we are a boundless part of all that is. The physical experience offers us the opportunity to fully experience a profoundly different vibration. And he has the word vibration in quotes here. The experience of that new vibration permits the individual to engage and personally integrate a new level of being. And vibrations that are extremely dissimilar from our native state. The native state is where we fully know that we are a boundless part of all that is. Vibrations that are different from that experience, we might call them, quote, low, close quotes, vibrations. They offer the greatest opportunity for us to expand. In fact, the, quote, distance, close quotes, away from that one, that we can go away from the state of being fully aware that we are a boundless part of all that is, the further we move from that realization, the greater the potential we have to increase in capacity if we can integrate the seeming distance. Because the potential increase in the individual's capacity is commensurate to the distance. In other words, it's correlated highly in a positive way with the distance. The greater the distance, the greater capacity for growth. So because that's true, diving way in is incredibly enticing, and it's desired from the non-physical state. By the way, most of us, once we get here and we start experiencing something that's a real big perceptual shift away from the realization that we are a boundless part of all it is, the less we want it. The more frustration there is, the more ache and pain, the more, quote, suffering, close quotes, we experience. But Christian's saying that from the input of his own memory from being in the non-physical and the guides that speak to him, the benefit that's available for having a life that's extraordinarily challenging is why so many souls choose significant challenges here on earth. The greater the challenge, the greater the opportunity for integration and growth. Once we're here, though, We may be so dissatisfied that we even rage against reality itself. But that dissatisfaction and that rage are signs that the spirit is being engaged with an experience that is not yet fully integrated. And that rage and the dissatisfaction are signs themselves that there is a tremendous opportunity for growth right now. He writes, as all-powerful spirit, we actually yearned for the opportunity to experience such stark challenges. Now that we are here, now that the, quote, rubber is meeting the road, close quotes, we can recognize even in our perceived hardship that in fact we are being presented with a real opportunity. If you put aside your ego, if you let go of your fears and demands, if you completely surrender to your experience of the present moment without any requirement or expectation, the deeper parts of you will always be ready to take you to the next step towards the integration that your soul desired so long ago. And as so long ago is in quotes, because it seems like a long time to us, but in the non-physical, there's an entirely different experience of time. This last couple of sentences is almost exactly what we find in Stephen Davis's writings from Butterflies Are Free to Fly. It's almost exactly what we find in Michael Singer's talks and lectures. If you put aside your ego, you let go of your fears and demands, and completely surrender to the present moment without any requirement or expectation, this is exactly what they're talking about in the way of mastery in the third lesson. When Yeshua says, the greatest gift that could ever come to me can only come to me. And I don't have to go get it. I don't have to search for it. I don't have to make it happen. It will come to me if I simply stop judging and creating perceptions about my brother or sister or the life unfolding around me. Christian goes on here and says, that integration may be an extremely intense process. You may have to face your deepest, darkest fears and actually feel your most poignant pains. But there is true healing power available in doing so. It's often the very discomfort of our lives that finally pushes us to integrate the wonders of our own depths. So we might as well choose to do so when the darkness comes and use the vibrational distance in the way it was intended. Nothing ultimately can change your true immortal nature. So it is safe for you to embrace the adventure of the full experience of this physical life while you're here. I don't know exactly what it was that was having me reflect on these things recently, but even earlier today I was reflecting on some of the biggest abrupt experiences, intense experiences of my life. And one of them that came to mind was I had spent 9 3/4 years pursuing a doctorate in clinical psychology. And I'd been told from the very first semester that all we were doing was building toward the time that we would have an oral defense of our dissertation, and at the end of it, they would shake our hands and call us Dr. So-and-so. And that this was basically a foregone conclusion because we would be working and we would be supported to reach that goal, that the school wanted us to be successful, that we would choose a dissertation committee We would choose a chairperson for our dissertation committee, and that dissertation committee would push us, they would challenge us, but for the point of making us better and stronger, and that they wouldn't even give us a date for an oral defense until they were convinced we were ready. And then they would be switching over from adversary to support team. And I did that. And I helped a number of other people do that because I was tutoring statistics and research design for, about 8 years in my process of getting my graduate degree. It was part of one of the many part-time jobs I took to try and pay my way through graduate school. So everybody that I knew expected that by the time I finally got that dissertation oral defense, that it was going to be a done deal. And they lied to me and they failed me. And I was just flashing on that earlier today for whatever reason. And how the story of that and my challenge to recover from that has been a very formative set of experiences. And that because I went through that and didn't just breeze through that, I have been able to help untold numbers of people with difficult situations in their lives. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. And yet, how I have chosen to interpret and respond to it, and the tools I've used to dismantle the negative emotional energies around it, has left me in a far better place to deal with frustration and disappointments, and to help other people through challenging experiences in their lives. So the theme here is challenge as a gift. The second essay in that list is titled, Pain is an Experience Not to be Feared. And just from the title alone, I feel compelled to give a quote from Guy Finley in one of his earlier talks. He says, emotional and psychological pain is not your enemy. And then he says, fear of it prevents you from seeing the truth. That your emotional and psychological pain is not your enemy. That's the truth. With the kind of work that we've done over the years in Mindshifters Radio and the support groups, I now talk to people about how, and Dr. Michael Ryce says, pain is a feedback system. Its purpose is to help your ears grow, so you listen and tune in to what's going on in you that isn't optimal. So here we have pain is an experience not to be feared. And Guy Finley says, emotional and psychological pain is not your enemy. And yet if you fear it, the fear prevents you from seeing the truth that your emotional and psychological pain is part of your guidance system, it's part of your feedback system, to wake you up to what you need to see that you're carrying around unnecessarily, that is hurtful to you, that is blocking you from seeing your true nature. So to begin this essay, Christian provides a quote by C.G. Jung. And he says, quote, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid facing their own soul. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Close quotes. Carl Gustav Jung. And for those who don't know, he was a psychiatrist, a contemporary of Freud, and one of the foremost minds that have contributed to the body of psychiatry. And his approach was far more spiritual than Freud's. Christian writes, "It is holy, Holy, when you finally actually choose to face your deepest pain with full commitment. Pain cannot kill you. Pain may be profoundly challenging to experience at times, but your awareness cannot be harmed by it. Your true nature cannot be harmed by it. Your body can and will die, but suffering will not obliterate your spirit. In fact, there is tremendous power to be gained by facing all of what you feel. Choose to accept all of your experience, including pain when it comes. Do not justify it away or tell yourself a story to temporarily ease its presence. Even when pain feels insurmountable and completely overwhelming, go into the storm. Even if you fear deeply that it will destroy you, plunge into the tsunami. Rather than being destroyed, you will come out far stronger on the other side." And this is exactly what we're told in the book Butterflies Are Free to Fly by Stephen Davis. You will rise. The strength will show up. So we're just about halfway through this hour. I just want to remind people that I welcome your comments or calls, even if I seem to be in the middle of something. One of the people in the support group last night was saying how they wish they could interrupt in the middle of one of Guy Finley's talks, and I said, please, I try to say this at the beginning of each one, mute yourself, but feel free to unmute and interrupt. It is those interruptions that we view as beneficial and additive in many ways. So Christian goes on and says, when you make the journey into pain, do not judge the pain or its perceived causes. Rather, simply experience it and be present with the feeling itself. It is important that we feel our pain without any judgment at all. Now, right there, this is the opposite of what we've been trained to in our culture. Our culture places a primary importance on intellect and thoughts about things and judgments. And here, Christian is relaying that from his experience, from his memory, from his guides, that is the opposite of what is most beneficial. It's important for us, if we're going to get the most benefit from our life experience, that we feel our pain without any judgment at all. Get our intellect, that we learn to be more than do. He writes, often the stories we're telling ourselves about the pain only contribute to it, as they simply layer new negative self-perceptions on top of an original fear. The original fear root is available to be processed and truly healed if we are willing to actually feel our way through the branches. He has in parentheses, individual surface pains, close parentheses, feel our way through each of these branches one at a time as they surface. He writes, the divine, capital D, divine, will always be there to guide and help us when we are truly willing to face our own darkness. To feel it is to heal it. And Guy Finley says, the feel is real, but the why is a lie. We think we're in pain because we're truly in danger. We think we're in pain because somebody outside of us did something wrong. We think we're in pain because X, Y, or Z explanation. And so Guy Finley says, the feel is real. You're actually feeling this pain or this discomfort, but whatever your mind is telling you about why you're feeling it is a lie. So that's the second essay in the category of challenge as a gift. The third essay in that list is titled The Hard Class. Christian writes, from the other side, the spirit actually excites at the prospect of having to deal with such constraints as we experience here in the physical. When we're here, though, the incredible challenges of our lives often seem insurmountable and crushing. And yet, the spirit does transcend them. Thus, we can approach our deepest challenges with an understanding that we can, in fact, rise above and through those experiences. Whatever it is that seems to thwart us, no matter what it is, can be used as the process of growth if we integrate it. We can embrace our difficult experiences and use them as the counter pressure they were meant to be. Metaphorically, we are on the weight bench, so we might as well lift weights. When you come into the physical, it's like metaphorically going to the gym. You're going to put yourself in situations. Life will bring to you situations which will sorely challenge you. And as you deal with them, as you survive, as you work to remember your true nature as love, as you work to be gentle with yourself and others, you strengthen your capacity to remember your true nature in more and more difficult, extenuating circumstances. Christian writes, doing so is a process not just of intellectual willingness, but of a deep commitment to have the intent to actually embrace our current experience, whatever it may be. We must be willing to feel. We must be willing to be honest with ourselves. We must be willing to be fully present. We must be willing to face our fears. We must be willing to remove the blame from the others and the outside world and instead accept responsibility for our own state of being. We must choose to experience what we are experiencing. In doing so, we may find that physical life is not just a challenge, instead it is an amazing and precious opportunity for peace, love, and joy. So we must be willing to feel it fully. We must be willing to be honest with ourselves. When I read that, my mind flashed to the Q&A from The Way of Mastery, where he talks about being so fundamentally, radically honest, finding friends that you can be fully transparent with. Every thought that runs through your head. And he calls it undressing in front of a friend. And he encourages people to get together with a group of people and say, look, let's make the commitment to each other to just be more and more, to work to catch our habitual dishonesty and call each other on it or call ourselves on it in front of our friends. This was one of the things that was so striking to me about two books I read back in 2020. One of them was Untamed, and the other one was We Are the Luckiest. And both Glennon Doyle and Laura McGowan wrote these books where a primary feature in the book was their individual struggle with recognizing how dishonest they had been in so many areas of their lives, and what an awakening it was for them to just make the commitment to be more honest. And they thought, oh, this will be easy. This is pretty easy. And then day after day, week after week, they found that dishonesty just everywhere. And they would be with a group of friends, and they would be in the middle of a conversation, and somebody would start talking about a movie, and they'd say, oh, yeah, I love that movie too, etc. And then they'd be driving away, and they'd realize, wait a minute, I never saw that movie. Why did I tell people I did? What was going on? That's incredible that despite my conscious desire to be more honest, I'm now finding myself fighting. And now I feel like I feel very foolish. And the commitment is that they would then get on the phone and either text or call their friends and say, listen, I'm really sorry, but I just realized I lied during that luncheon we were having, etc. So we're reading from this grouping of essays, the theme, Challenge as a Gift. And we've read the first three. And the fourth one is titled, Accepting Your Physical Path. And Christian writes, we who are physical are blessed with the opportunity to be physical. Near-death experiencers and other sources from spirit remind us that we, those who have physically incarnated, are particularly blessed. It's also said that there are many more spirits who wish to have the opportunity to make it into this reality than there are those of us who are already here. It is ironic, then, that so many of us here seem to want out. Having the opportunity to walk the challenging path of physical life is a tremendous gift. Being physical is not primarily a walk of trial or a judgment or a sorrow. Being physical is having the precious opportunity to love and extend love when it is sorely needed. It's the precious opportunity to go through and shine in the face of challenges that may seem insurmountable. It's the precious opportunity to participate in and experience creation in an extreme way. Thus, instead of resisting your path, the invitation here is to permit yourself to let go and accept the beauty of the messiness. Whatever is happening in your life, recognize your power to view it how you wish. Your power to drop your judgments altogether. Are you able to look past your own judgments and see with the ever wondrous eyes of your spirit? Are you able to sense the profound opportunity in this challenge? If so, recognize that your challenges are, in fact, gifts. As gifts, you might as well accept them while you're here. For when you accept your challenges and surrender to your own experience, rather than your ideas about your experience, you will there find the fruits of the Spirit are ever, always available to you. True power and freedom lie in acceptance. True power and freedom lie in acceptance. Guy Finley gave a talk this last Sunday or the Sunday before that, where he was talking about the true power. And the true power comes from the realization that we don't have power ourselves individually, that our power comes from being part of the flow of life and creation. And it's not something that we will generate or be able to initiate separate from that which has given rise to all of life and ourselves. So, in my helplessness, this greater strength can flow through me. When my ego recognizes how futile it is for it to keep fighting against the flow of life becomes my conveyance to a higher experience. So again, the topic theme is challenge as a gift. And the fifth essay in that list is titled The Gift of Choosing to be Human. And Christian writes, imagine for a moment that you're absolutely free and absolutely powerful. Imagine that nothing can limit you, nothing is impossible, and nothing can thwart your every desire. Imagine you are everything. You and those who are a part of you are all that is. How would one in such a state truly create and expand? From the place of understanding that you are absolutely powerful and nothing can limit you, everything is possible for you, nothing can thwart your every desire, how could you expand from that state? How would one in such a state be able to choose something even greater or be something even greater if everything was available to you? If absolute freedom were already yours, how tantalizing would it be to have the choice to experience a true challenge so that you could fully personally know unique contrast, you could deepen your experience, and in so doing become even more. In the book Butterflies Are Free to Fly, Stephen Davis was talking about, imagine that you were somebody who liked to play basketball, and all of a sudden, you'd worked at it for years and you'd gotten pretty good at it. You were not quite the Michael Jordan type, but you were pretty darn good. And maybe even at a professional level. And then all of a sudden, somebody came along and tapped you with their magic wand, and now every time you threw the basketball, it went through the basket. Every time. Whether you were at the far end of the court, whether you were falling out of bounds upside down, whether you were at the free throw line, whether there was a 7.5-foot tall person in front of you with both their arms waving, every time you let go of the ball, it found its way through the hoop. What would that do to your enjoyment of the game? How long do you think they would let you be in the game? No one would want to play with you. It would be pointless. The challenge would be gone. This actually happened to me once in my own life. I was in my early teens, and we'd been in a bowling league, and I struggled quite a bit. And then something shifted in my body and my strength level, and we went to a tournament, and something clicked in me with just throwing the ball straight without trying to put spin on it or curve or whatever, and to line up with the arrows on the lane. And what happened was I had been in the league and I'd had this kind of a handicap because I wasn't that good a bowler, because I was easily distracted and my body was, the preteen, non-muscular type body and whatnot. Things just came together for a game or two before the tournament, and then through the tournament, my scores were 50 points higher than my average, and everybody got mad at me, and they thought I was a ringer, and they thought I was cheating. And actually, I lost all interest in bowling because it just got too easy. If I didn't worry about putting a spin on the ball or throwing it too hard, and I just stayed relaxed and lined it up and just let it roll straight, more often than not, the pins would fall down. And people didn't believe me when I told them this. But I literally lost interest in bowling, and I quit the league. Then I was in college, and my senior year I'd taken all the classes I needed for anything important, and I had this class called minor sports. And one of the things we did, we learned to play badminton, and we learned to play the rules of shuffleboard or whatever silliness. And one of the things we had to do was go bowl a game at the local bowling alley, which was a walking distance from our gymnasium. And so I went there with my classmates, and I had my bowling ball from when I was a kid, and I bowled a game where there were no open frames. Everything was either a spare or a strike. It was a 240-point game out of a possible 300. And everybody was upset with me. And I was bored. And that made them even more upset. So from that position, I never had any more interest to go bowling. Why would I want to go bowling and have people, I do a really good job and people get angry at me? What if limitation and challenge actually are necessary ingredients for us to have enjoyment and enrichment and growth? I just flashed on the springtime is coming, so wherever you are, if spring is in your area, you might want to go out and find some places that you can walk on paths where they have asphalt. And if there's a lot of nature around, a lot of plants around, and asphalt, eventually, if you watch as you're walking on the path, you will find places where the asphalt is getting eruptions in it because seedlings are breaking through the asphalt. And I don't know the exact number, but I had to look it up. I had to figure out, wait a minute, if I have a knife with me, if I have a hammer with me, it's hard for me to break up this asphalt. And yet I see these eruptions happening in the asphalt when I'm out walking or riding my bike, and I stop and take a look at it, and here's this little green shoot of a plant that is breaking through the asphalt. It's bizarre, because if I peel the asphalt away, here's this fragile little shoot. If I take my fingernails and pinch that shoot, it breaks right off. How does this happen? So I decided I better look it up. I got curious. What I discovered was that within the cells of that little shoot, as it breaks the sprout that breaks open its own shell, and Guy Finley will say the greatest point of resistance is right before the shell breaks away or breaks open. But then the sprout keeps going. How does something so vulnerable and fragile break through asphalt? Because within the cells of that plant, it generates something like 400 atmospheres of pressure. We are experiencing 1 atmosphere of pressure here at ground level or sea level on our planet, which means the weight of the air, right? When you move your hand and you can feel the air move when the wind is blowing and it can knock over a can, that's greater than 1 atmosphere of pressure. That's the movement of the air. It creates a more powerful force. But what we are just used to is 1 atmosphere of pressure. 400 times that gets generated within each cell of that tiny plant. And that incredible pressure is what allows it to break through its own shell and then break through the asphalt. If that resistance weren't there, if the walls of the cells weren't containing that energy, it would never turn into something that could break through the shell and or disrupt the asphalt. It's the resistance that has the value. So, Christian goes on and says, what would it be like to be so free, so completely, absolutely powerful and free that you could choose to feel constrained? That is what we really are. We are really limitless. We're absolutely free beings who have chosen to be here in the physical to experience constraint and frustration and what we might call pain. This is where we really are. We are really limitless, absolutely free beings. In absolute freedom, we have chosen to participate in a truly incredible experiment to push the very boundaries of freedom and expansion. We have chosen to forget what we truly are for a while and to be mortal beings on earth. From the perspective of man, the choice to be frail, challenged, powerless, and decaying can seem almost impossible to comprehend. Because most people that you run into who are in the physical experience of being a human being, they're dreaming and they're scheming and they're looking for the fountain of youth and they're looking for this infinite, abundant supply of energy and power. However, from the perspective of spirit, having the opportunity to actually experience those things and actually have an impact on others while they're on their own rich journey is an incredibly profound gift. How much greater a gift could be given by the Creator to spirits who are already absolutely free than the ability to experience contrast, so that they may, in fact, exercise their freedom even more, actually be more than they once were, and learn to express the love that they really are in new and very real ways. This is what Christian has believed he's discovered, remembered from his pre-life experience, and been told in spades by his guides and teachers. That is a valid choice of experience, since we're all creating our own meaning, as the Course in Miracles tells us. I give this moment in front of me all the meaning it has for me. And so this is a very valid choice of the meaning. The meaning is, I'm here to learn to extend love in more and more challenging constraint sets. So as to not be rushed, I will leave it at that for the reading for today and invite comments or questions. We have a number of people on the app. I see no comments. I see no hands up for the phone queue. Got a solid 5 minutes. If somebody wants to press a button or type in a comment or give some kind of a reaction, it would be appreciated. Last night was a Tuesday, so we had our support group. Tonight is a Wednesday. We will not have a support group, but there will be one tomorrow from 6:30 to 9 p.m. Central Time. And we haven't had anybody in a while give a comment or a testimonial about the benefits or experience of being in a support group, but they do make those comments during the group. So I invite you to take advantage of that. It's time limited, unlike some people who plan to be around for a party at Dr. Michael Ryce's intensive center in southern Missouri in 4949. I'm reasonably certain these support groups, even though they've been running for almost 21 years now, aren't going to be there forever. So feel free to take advantage of them. They are, in many people's experience, highly beneficial. And it's free. All the information you would need to join us tomorrow night is available on the mindshiftersacademy.org website. And please remember, if you choose to go there and look it up, we have a separate page for Tuesday information and a separate page for Thursday information. And Sally writes, you are an amazing teacher. I'm so grateful. Rearranged my schedule to be here daily. I needed that part of the metaphors in nature and the gift of life. Well, I'm glad you're finding it useful, Sally. And we do what we can to, basically, essentially what I'm doing here is just passing on that which has been most beneficial to me. None of this stuff is basically coming from me. And I remember one time a few years ago, I had had to be 6 or 7 years ago now, I had the insight when I was on a bike ride and thinking about our processing in the support groups and on the internet show, and I thought, you know what, this thing we call wisdom cannot be possessed. It can only be accessed. What you have written in front of you isn't wisdom. What it might resonate as a deep understanding in you or a shift of perspective in you can be enacted as wisdom. And so the essence of wisdom is this, ability to integrate in the moment whatever you bring into the moment and whatever is available in that moment in such a way that it becomes a blessing to yourself and others. That's one way to think about wisdom. Guy Finley has a thing where he says, wisdom is the gradual erosion, the gradual dismantling of the belief that you're separate or separated from anyone or anything. That's one of the many definitions that you might find for wisdom, and it comes from Guy Finley. So I thank you all for being here. I'll remind us that we come from love. We're made of the stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Yesterday, Michael and Jeanie had a replay on Podbean. I believe they'll be live today, so sit by your apps and start them back up again after we end this. Thank you all for being here.